Welcome back to Meet the Authors with your host, Philip Levin. So we're here today with Frank Wilem. We're very excited to have Frank here. Frank's been on the coast since 1978. He's practically native and has a long history of being here with so many people in his business and fishing. You can see from his cap, he's a renowned fisherman. I remember I went to his first book signing, it was just about 3 or 4 years ago, and he had hundreds of people there to get autographed copies of his book. His books are great, very successful, wonderful reads, adventure stories. So tell us, Frank, tell us a little bit about yourself. How did you get to the coast and how you became interested in being a writer?
Well, you did such a great job. I probably ought to just leave it there. But no, I was, of course, interested in writing for a long time. I read Hemingway back when I was a boy. I probably read The Old Man and the Sea a dozen times. And when I would travel with business, of course, you have long periods of time in lobbies of airports and that sort of thing. And so I started writing scenes, and I would write about whatever happened to come to my mind. And I found it just kind of relaxing. And I had no end game in mind. I just wrote the scenes and filled up notebooks. Well, when we sold our company, Triton Systems, then I finally had the time to take some of those scenes and put them together. And out of that came my first book, The Keys. And that was basically built on the premise of many of us have thought at times in our life about just getting in the car and leaving and going somewhere. And I thought it'd be interesting to have a character actually do that. And so from there, then I had a sequence of 3 more books that kind of played off the same characters.
That's wonderful. The stories are very easy to follow and very adventuresome. I really have read them all. I really like them. They're just so exciting, and they really have great thrills to the adventure story. So you published your first book. When? When was the first one published?
I believe it was 2010.
Okay, and so you now have 4 out, and
correct.
when is you have a 5th one in mind?
The 5th one, I bought a television production company, and since I bought that 2.5 years ago, I pretty much haven't had a chance to finish writing. The 5th book is probably 3/4 of the way done, and I've got 2 nonfiction books that are done. I just haven't had the bandwidth to launch them yet.
Nonfiction, what are they about?
Well, one is the Triton story, the story of how we built our company from $500 to a $100 million company. And the second one is basically a collection of blog posts and short stories, that sort of thing. Most of them are which are true, but they're just short, fun stories.
Wow, you had a very successful adventure bringing that company up to such a successful launch. So how about you read a little bit of something? We'd love to hear about hear a little segment from your book and get a feel for your writing style.
All right. Well, the last 3 of the books, The Pass, The Arrow, and then Tears of Coral, all 3 of those are fiction books, but they're based on a nonfiction premise. The Pass was based upon an incident that happened in the 50s where a nuclear weapon was jettisoned off the coast of Savannah and is still there today. And that was interesting because this is Mississippi Authors. Turns out that after the book came out, Mississippi Business Journal did an article on it, and I got a call from a man, Dan Fordyce, the son of our former governor, and told me that the bomber pilot that had dropped the nuclear weapon off Savannah and is still there today was from Mississippi and was still living, and I had a chance to meet him. His name's Howard Richardson, living in Jackson. I thought that was pretty interesting. But the next book, The Arrow Sea, was basically the inspiration of that came from a picture I saw online of a fleet of fishing boats rusting away in the middle of a desert. And of course, the question comes to my mind, boats are not normally found in a desert. We'll come to find out that it's probably the largest environmental man-made disaster in the history of the world. No one's heard of it for the most part. And the Soviets had dammed up 2 of the main tributaries of the Aral Sea and shrunk it by 75%. So that was sort of the thing that led to the genesis of this book. And I'll just read you a little bit of the prologue. Dean remained motionless, peering through the ship's porthole across the surrounding Uzbekistan desert. The thud of the hulking figure slinging a sledgehammer on the bow of the next ship over had awakened him from his shallow sleep. Probably a scrapper looking for some piece of overlooked junk to trade for a loaf of bread. But it was the antique rifle, some sort of blunderbuss-looking weapon slung over the man's shoulder, that worried Dean. The last thing he wanted was to catch a bullet from a chance encounter with an innocent, then have the nearby villagers, drawn by the boom of the man's old cannon, come marching out after him armed with knives and pitchforks. The next to last thing Dean wanted was to kill one of the remaining locals, guilty only of having the misfortune to live in this God-forsaken hellhole. Of course, before long, most of them living nearby would be dead from the cancer or one of the many other diseases running rampant. Dean cursed himself for remaining on the bridge of the rusted fishing trawler. It had been a mistake to opt for the chance of a slight breeze through the broken out window rather than the safety of the stifling hull below decks. Now he was trapped. And then it goes on from
That's
there.
a great story. I see you have an IP award. The IP is given for independent publishers, and it's a very prestigious award to get this IP thing. So that's great. We really have enjoyed hearing. Where can people find your books?
They can go online to my website, frankwilem.com, or also on Amazon. All the books are available as ebooks or as hard copy books.
And they're also available, I think, at some of the local bookstores. I know that Southern Bound Books carries your books as well. And are they available at Barnes & Noble's?
Not the Barnes & Noble's, but Triple A Day downtown's got them, and as you said, Southern Bound.
So we're very happy to have had Frank Wilem as our guest. Go to my website, drstreams.com. You can pick up any of my books or any of our guests' books. All the guests have been invited to put their books on my website and get them directly from there.